Good afternoon. Welcome to the Deerwood Realty Show. This is John Schink, founder and managing broker of Deerwood Realty in St. Louis, Missouri. Well, there's this argument that's starting in the real estate business, and that's you should list your home on a private network first because there's all these bad things about the MLS. And I think it's all garbage. Quite frankly, I think it's all garbage. Now, there was an article written by Zillow who kind of has a reason to write an article like this, but they did some research. And we're going to go over it now. Here it is. It says, Off-MLS home sellers left more than $1 billion on the table the past 2 years. Now, that's their research. It's even written by Zillow Research. There's nobody on the as far as a name on the article. But I wanted to go over with you because I do believe that showing your house to the most amount of people is the best for you to sell your house. I think that when people argue against doing so, they argue against doing so out of a position where they will benefit. So let's say like you're part of a brokerage where they say you shouldn't list your home on the MLS first, you should list it in a private network. Well, that's so they can get both sides of the deal as the broker. There's no question, because only that brokerage is going to have those two listings. So I find that to be off-putting. I don't feel like that's good for the consumer. I never have. I would always put my stuff. And when we used to do investments, when I used to be working with an investor, his whole thing was keep it off the MLS as long as possible so that nobody knows what's going on. And so if it's off the MLS, you know, if you just sell it to us, you don't know what you could get for the house. And people are like that. They're sharks. They're not very nice. And people will take advantage of you however possible. One argument against that would be they would say that the MLS, it shows the days on market. Well, it doesn't. It shows it on the back end. And they say, well, if the house has been on the market for 6 months, that's going to hurt the value of the sale price of the house. It absolutely is. And why do you have a house that's been on the market for 6 months? It's because you have it priced wrong. Anyway, here we go. Off-MLS home sellers left more than $1 million on the table the past 2 years. The typical home seller who did not list on the MLS sold their home for nearly $5,000 less. Now, look, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of transactions. So, I mean, you know, the chance that they've got this right, I put it 50-50. It says new Zillow research reveals a significant financial impact on home sellers who did not list their properties on the MLS. Over the past 2 years, sellers who transacted off the MLS collectively left more than $1 billion on the table. I just wanted to check something there. Okay. The study examined home sales from 2023 and 2024, finding that homes sold off the MLS typically sold for $4,975 less than those listed on the MLS, a median loss of 1.5% nationwide. The loss is much more significant in some areas. Sellers in California, for example, typically gave up more than $30,000 selling off the MLS. Now, how do we know that? How did we get this data? On the MLS, it's pretty straightforward. When it's not being sold on the MLS, not very straightforward. So let's say you put your house on Zillow, which is not the MLS, but you don't market it through any other means, and you sell the house, okay? Well, did you sell that for more than you could have on the MLS? Very, very tough. We go over the methodology, but I mean, it's really dicey, in my opinion. It says some real estate brokerages, Compass, they're talking about Compass, are increasingly steering sellers to list their homes on private networks first instead of the MLS without adequately highlighting the potential negative price impacts or that their home will only be visible to buyers locked into a contract with that same brokerage. Yes, I think it's disgusting. I think it's absolutely disgusting. And I'm very disappointed with the quote-unquote thought leaders who think this is a good idea. The research highlights the importance of a for-sale listing being entered on the MLS to be openly marketed to the widest audience of home buyers. By listing on the MLS, sellers can expose their properties to a broader pool of potential buyers, which increases competition and can result in securing the highest possible sales price. And buyers have the ability to consider all available homes for sale. That's absolutely right. So one of the problems that I see with the private networks is, say you're locked in with an agent, with a brokerage, and they say, well, you know, we have all these exclusive homes for you to look at as a buyer. So you go and look at these exclusive homes. Well, what if there's a house that's on the MLS that you like better? Well, you're kind of stuck looking at these homes that are in the private network. And then when you say, well, what are the comps for this house? Then they go and pull the other comps from the MLS. But, you know, you didn't have that opportunity to to look at houses on the MLS. And what if they don't show you the right comps? I mean, that can happen in a regular situation too. That's why working with a competent real estate agent is so important. And so many people get it wrong. They think that their cousin is the best agent. They think that their neighbor's the best agent, but they don't go and they don't really talk to the agents to know any better. And quite frankly, how would you know if you've got a competent agent? I mean, it's tough. It's tough. A January 2025 Zillow Harris Poll survey of more than 2,000 U.S. consumers found 63% of those who have sold a home within the past 5 years say their agent recommended listing on a private network. It's not good. That's compared to 18% for those who sold more than 5 years ago. In that same survey, more than 4 in 5 Americans said that if they were selling a home, it would be important to them that their home listing is viewable for free to the public. I think this is absolutely atrocious. And I look forward to all the lawsuits for fair housing. And I want you to make sure you go after the brokerages that are doing this. And we're not talking like, $100,000 fines. I want them to know how wonderful their idea really was when it relates to fair housing. It says Zillow found homes in all price tiers typically sold for less when sold off the MLS, with price impacts generally more severe for lower priced homes. The people that could least afford to lose money are the people that are getting hurt the worst. The breakdown of median losses for off-MLS sales by price tier is found. The bottom tier, 3.1%. So you've got this terrible house for sale in the middle of the hood, okay? And you're trying to sell it. Somehow you sell it on a private network, which you sold it to a wholesaler. And then they get 3 other people to buy it in between, and finally somebody fixes it and gets left holding the bag. The investor, the smartest one that ended up buying it. I don't think that's great. I mean, I just don't think that's a great thing. And then you got lower tier, mid tier, upper tier, and luxury tier. It's interesting to me that the luxury tier, they have the least amount to lose by listing it in a private network. And we can argue all day long, but Compass tends to try and go to the luxury side. So maybe the problems aren't as pronounced. The negative price impacts also held across urban, suburban, and rural homes. Sellers of urban homes missed out the most, with a median loss of 2% compared to 1.5% suburban areas and 0.9% in rural areas. But let's look at the methodology. It says they have analyzed a total of 10 million transactions, 2.72 meeting the strict inclusion criteria for comparing the homes sold on the MLS with privately listed sales. Now, how did they get the privately listed sales? In the sample analyzed, 96.67% of the transactions were standard on MLS, while pocket listings accounted for 2%. An additional 0.11% were off MLS transactions with previous MLS records. Pocket listings were defined as sales that were marketed privately and were seemingly only submitted to the MLS once a purchase contract was in place. To classify these sales, Zillow identified sales that were reported pending or closed with at most 1 day active and with a buyer and seller represented by the same agent or agents within the same brokerage office. That is a pocket listing, 100%. 100%. So Zillow also parsed off MLS transactions, which were never published to the MLS, never published to the public MLS after privately listed. So Zillow also narrowed these off MLS transactions to a much smaller set. Those were the previous sale in the MLS, which allowed us to verify property details. Only this subset among the MLS transactions was included in the analysis. In both sets, Zillow excluded new construction homes, foreclosure sales, auction sales, non-arm's length transactions, bank, corporate, government acquisitions, invalid quit claims, and outlier sale prices below 10 or above 10 million. So the non-arm's length transaction, I mean, if you're selling within a private network and you've got 2 agents working for the same brokerage, I get that the rules are, I get that the ethics are that you have to, that you have to treat your client with cold AC, care, obedience, loyalty. Yeah. But you're in the same office and the brokerage really wants that transaction. It's the only way they make money. The money in brokerages is not in, you get good agents, but you're either going to get rental desk fees. I mean, that's where the money is. You get enough agents, you get enough rental desk fees. And other than that, I mean, it's tough. So you may say, John, what do you recommend if you were listing my home? Well, I recommend 100% we go on the MLS first. I don't care what anybody else says. And the reason why I think we should go on the MLS first is it exposes us to the largest amount of buyers, the fastest. We want that thing listed and sold within the first week. We don't want to be on the market for months and months at a time. We're going to get our best and brightest and wonderfulest and greatest offer is going to be the first offer we get, or on the first weekend. That's somebody that's really, really wanting to buy. That's somebody that's been looking at the market for a while. And that's somebody that takes advantage of the situation in a good way. And say, well, this other agent promised me I could list it with here, and then they have price discovery over amount of time, and it's all garbage. All garbage. I can't believe that this is happening. People want to get rid of clear cooperation. Clear cooperation. The reason for that was these pocket listings are a severe liability to a brokerage, and they're gonna hit somebody hard. And like I said, I just hope that the federal government, working with its own groups, comes after these brokerages, because I guarantee you, if you want to discriminate against somebody based on race, this is the spot where they would do it. The private listing. Very bad. Very bad. With that, I'm going to head on out. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and I will catch you on the next one.